Welcome back, everybody. I am glad you're here. We're back at it today with 1911s. You know, I've been really earnestly trying to get away from 1911s for a while. I was feeling a little worn out on it, and I was worried you guys are going to be worn out on it. And so, there's plenty of other stuff I wanted to talk about, but man, these guns don't lose interest. It's I've got a couple friends right now where we just keep building 1911s. It's like we can't wear ourselves out on them. So I'm just going to follow the interest, and here we are. We're back on the bench with more 1911s. So today we're going to be revisiting the arched versus flat mainspring housing video. And I want to spend just a minute or two here right out of the gate owning two mistakes from the last video. Because look, guys, I am not perfect, and I'm going to own my mistakes, especially when somebody points out, hey, man, I think you missed it on this one. And I really appreciate that. When somebody brings up a piece of information they think I missed, I welcome that. I'm happy to be wrong. So the first thing I want to own is in that first video, I'll be honest with you, I should have been more thorough. I talked kind of briefly about how I feel about them. Then I made, some comments about maybe the history, and it was really just a guess. I said basically that I didn't believe they did this to change point of aim. I thought they did it because, when you kind of look at what was common back then, it was revolvers, and then you go to something like this that's just kind of a flat block, it feels very foreign. And somebody in the comments, a subscriber, pointed out to me that, hey man, there's actually a book on this. I would check it out. I think you're wrong. And so, yes, I bought that book. But then C and Arsenal came out with their video on the A1s right on time. And so, hey, I stand corrected. They did actually do the arched mainspring housing to change point of aim, which is a very interesting concept. But hey, I'm happy to be wrong. So I own those two things, and hope you guys hear me on that one. But anytime I'm wrong, I'm gonna own it if somebody points it out to me, and I think it's valid. So with this video, I'm gonna stay in my lane, and that's kind of the mistake I made in the other video. So what is my lane? It's really two things with this channel, and it is one, I'm kind of a mechanic of 1911s. Okay. I'm going to avoid calling myself a gunsmith because people get weird about that and start asking for certificates and stuff. And none of that matters to me. I got plenty of people who work on my stuff and do things for me that don't have some dumb certificate. So in my world, that's meaningless. So I call myself a mechanic. I'd say I'm an intermediate guy on the 1911. I've said that in the past. And basically where I think my skill set is understanding the mechanics of how these guns work. Getting them working, keeping them working, diagnosing issues, installing new parts, troubleshooting. That's my lane with the 1911. It is not history. I've said that in many, many videos going back a few months now, that basically C and Arsenal and Forgotten Weapons, you need to go watch them. If I start talking about history, take it with a fat grain of salt, okay? I know a good bit about it, but it's just not my lane, and I got to own that. And so we're going to stay in our lane in that regard. But the other thing that is kind of my lane when it comes to this channel and these 1911s is the end user side, right? I tell you my experience, how I think about things, how to maximize the utility in using these things. And so that's really going to be the point of this video, is we're going to revisit flat versus arched mainspring housings. And I really want to dive into some recent changes for me, and hopefully it'll be helpful to you from the end user side. And so without further ado, thank you guys for hearing me out on those few points. We're going to move on forward and start talking about this. If you guys have been watching the channel for a while, you know that kind of my typical 1911 setup that I prefer looks something like this, right? Not necessarily color and grips and this and that. There's kind of again, end user, using the gun. How does it feel? How does it point? There's a few things that I tend to gravitate towards and have for a very long time. Flat mainspring housing, medium trigger. I like wide spur hammers. I like standard ejection ports. I like GI sights. And for the most part, I like a very plain looking pistol. And really, this is what I've been running and carrying, something like this, for many moons. I've never really been a arched mainspring housing guy. I've owned them. It's what I cut my teeth on with the 1911. You know, my one of my first 1911s, actually the very first, was a GI from Springfield. And man, I didn't even know what a mainspring housing was. I just shot the brakes off of that guy. And so anyway, as you develop, you learn, you try things out. I had become a flat mainspring housing guy. But this YouTube channel has sort of forced me, or given me, the beautiful opportunity to revisit some of these things in a way that I haven't in years past, because I'm doing reviews. I'm looking at these a little bit more critically versus just kind of being autonomous with my tastes. And it's caused some changes for me, which is always exciting, right? To discover something new or rediscover something. So basically, that's what I want to talk about here. Now, you guys know on my recent review of this new Tisas Remington Rand copy, my goal with that video was to really shoot the pistol and run it just as much as it comes as possible. If you remember in that video, the only thing I did was adjust the extractor a little bit and put in a new recoil spring. Everything else in the gun is how it came. No adjustments, no parts changes. And I just want to reiterate, I'm still so impressed. This is like ultra rare for me to do that little to a 1911, you know, when I first get it. That's so exciting to me. So, you know, I went out to the range and I ran this pistol and had a great time doing it. Something happened to me out on the range while I was shooting this gun where I just don't normally spend that much time shooting arched mainspring housing guns. While I was out on the range, you know, I shot this a bit, and then I went over to this, right, with the flat mainspring housing. And I just all of a sudden went, man, I'm shooting that A1 a whole lot better. Like, it just clicked. All of a sudden, I was like, what's happening right now? And so, you know, I was still filming the video and trying to get good footage for you guys so you have something to look at. But secretly in my head, I'm analyzing. I'm going like, why is this happening? Why do I want to shoot the arched mainspring housing guns? I just kind of started going back and forth, like literally shoot a mag out of this, shoot a mag out of this, shoot a mag out of this, back and forth. And here's what I found. The flat mainspring housing guns point better. When I grab these, they fit my hand better. They point better. It feels much more natural. Now, that's partly because, I've been shooting a flat mainspring housing gun for a long time, primarily. But, yeah, these just point and feel more natural. It feels correct. It feels right. They fill my hand beautifully. But that's how it feels to point and hold. The thing that clicked for me on the range the other day was I found that, and I've heard people say this in the past, like literally my whole life, you know, when I started shooting 1911s, the guys that shot arched mainspring housings would always say that the arched mainspring housing drives your hand up into the grip safety. And I just never really like clicked with that. It was just like, yeah, but I don't like feeling like I just don't like this giant hump back there. It feels unnatural, but doesn't shoot unnatural. And that's what clicked for me on the range the other day was I realized I was able to drive this gun and just shoot it better. Not more accurately, but I was more in control of the gun. And I noticed a couple things about the recoil between these two as well. So the recoil is much flatter with the arched mainspring housing pistols. It feels much more back into your hand. Again, it is true. It kind of clicked for me. I noticed that it does drive your hand up into that grip safety, but it doesn't point as naturally. See, this thing that they clearly did to change the point of aim with these guns, it kind of worked because I found myself kind of going like, God, man, okay, I gotta, like, I'm so used to with 1911s where if I punch out and my eyes are closed and open my eyes, the angle's going to be correct, and I'm probably going to be real close to looking down the sights. It's not that way with the arched, so I am finding it strange, that angle change. But again, from the shooting point of view, the gun drives much better, noticeably better. So the recoil on the arched gun was more of a rearward. Then I switched back over to the flat, and it's more of a, it definitely feels like the pistol is coming back and wanting to roll up more, right? Now, because of the way I shoot one-handed, doesn't really bother me. I kind of allow the pistol to do whatever it's going to do. It's not a big deal to me. I talked about that in my recent recoil video. But I just noticed, like, these arched guns track better in terms of shooting. They still point weird to me. They still feel weird to me, but they shoot better. And isn't that what really matters? So, all that to say, it's kind of fun to like have a light bulb and go, oh man, like maybe I prefer this, which is it's kind of cool to have a change. Now, does that mean I'm going to just go ahead and abandon all flat mainspring housings? No, I still think they have a place. I mean, look, they are lighter. I think they carry a little bit better because one of the hardest places to hide on a pistol is back here, this corner, and albeit it's very small, but you are technically adding mass back there. Now, here's another thing. I just remembered this too. Another thing that I noticed that is way better about the flat mainspring housing is when I had any of the arched guns holstered and I go to draw them, I had a really hard time just finding, like, just grabbing them properly, indexing the pistol like I wanted to. Whereas the flat, you go to grab it and, man, it's right. So my draws were incredibly slow. I mean, they already kind of are. Like, I kind of suck at all that stuff, so let's be honest. But for that reason alone, I'm not quite ready to throw one of these in the waistband. I'm going to stick with what I know and all that good stuff. But I just wanted to make this video and really encourage you guys, like, if you have more than one 1911, take them out and shoot them side by side. Test things out. Use the same ammo, all that good stuff. But try it out, man. Because I'm noticing, like, man, from a shooting perspective, arched mainspring housings, they got a thing going. I actually kind of dig it. And so now let's get into what's on the table here. Because of that experience, it has caused me to sort of like pull out some of the arched mainspring housings that I've had laying around. So I'm going to go ahead and get the Tisas out of the way so we're not clacking guns together too much here. I'm going to go ahead and get away that guy. So I want to focus on the two prettiest guns on the table. Am I right? So let's start with blue. There's old blue. We love them. So this one was a good example where I had such a good time shooting that pistol that I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be doing another rebuild on this gun. I've got an arched mainspring housing and a short trigger. I'm going to go with that, right? And I'm glad I did because it looks great. It feels great. I had a blast shooting it. You're going to see some footage of that here. This gun was just a joy to shoot, man. Yeah, I just love it. I am still kind of messing with the Colt. There's going to be another video on that, and I'll update you guys. But basically, it's got the original hammer back in and the original arched mainspring housing. And, because again, man, like, I'm really enjoying shooting the arched mainspring housing guns. So just to recap, I think the good things about the flat mainspring housing are, for me, this is very personal stuff. So, I'm not making a statement like this is what you should think. I'm just telling you my mileage. Maybe it'll help you think about this a little bit differently. The flat mainspring housing guns point better, they fit my hand better, and I can draw them more consistently. The downside of the flat mainspring housing guns is really just comparing them with shooting. It does have more of a muzzle flip tendency. It doesn't shoot as flat, and so there you go. That it is what it is there. But then you jump over to the arched mainspring housing guns. I find that, I can't draw them as well. It's a little funky getting tucked into this whole deal back here. They don't point as naturally for me. Again, not a big deal, but it is something to consider. But from the shooting perspective, it's noticeable. It is noticeable. It does really stick in your hand beautifully. It helps you drive the gun, keep it on target a lot better. And so, man, which one do you pick? I don't think you can go wrong with either way. And I think I said that in my first video as well, that I don't think there's a bad choice here. I think you need to just go and shoot them and pick what you prefer. But I guess what I'm saying is the arched mainspring housing guys, I kind of get it. I get it. I'm not making the switch, but I get it. And right now, I'm really interested in shooting these more and exploring that side of the house because, you guys got to realize, this goes probably 10 years back that I've been shooting flat mainspring housing guns. I just haven't revisited arched in a long time for a nice long range session. I would always go out to the range and maybe bring one, fire off a couple mags, but it was just, recreational. There was nothing really to it. But again, when I brought out this Tisas, man, and I really put a lot of rounds through it, it was like, interesting. That actually kind of rips. So there you go, guys. That is arched versus flat revisited. Just a little conversation with us. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'm sure you guys are going to let me know what you prefer. And appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you on the next one.